to Russia, Daryl.
Thank you, Tanya. It's good to be here, and I appreciate all the work you've done, and I was really impressed, so I wanted to give you an invite to do an interview with me, and it's good to be speaking to the Russian people.
Well, what do you want to start today, Daryl? Can you tell us why you are here today, why you are talking to Russians? How come?
Well, I get to the point, I was told things as well. When I left the Navy, it's a tradition like in the American military, where if you're leaving the military, you get to talk to like the highest enlisted men, which in the Navy is the Master Chief of the base, and you get to talk to the executive officer, and you get to talk to the commanding officer. And those are the top 3 highest ranked people on the base. And the executive officer, which is the one I knew when I was in the program, his name was Robert. He told me some things as well about future events that would happen and things like that, and Russia would be a big player in those future events.
Of course, we could not skip the question about Russian SSP.
It does exist. I remember we met up with them, and this was like in space on ships. I remember speaking to a Russian woman, and she was a telepath as well. So yeah, there's a Russian space program, there's a Japanese, there's a Chinese, and I'm pretty sure there's an Indian too.
And I think French as well, because now
French and yeah, French, but a lot of that is kind of like the West is kind of like a solar warden kind of all kind of together, because we had, you know, people from different nationalities, I remember, you know, from Europe and things like that, and solar warden as well. But yeah, I mean, like England was participating, of course, because the base I was in was an English base, and yeah, the French, and of course, and you know, yeah. I think there is a chance that a lot of these things will come to light, but I mean, overall, as far as what I was told, very positive things are going to happen overall. But I mean, if these programs are brought to light or not, I don't know if that's really going to affect what's going on down here. You know, I mean, we kind of have to clean up and take care of what's going on Earth before, you know, other things will unfold.
Yeah, sure. And that's what probably is happening at the big scale, at the very big scale.
We also asked if Daryl had chosen or had been chosen to participate in the SSP, and why him?
Well, as far as being chosen from people on Earth and things like that, like I said, there was a first-class petty officer whenever I was first scanned, and they had all my scores, intelligence scores, and things like that. And he was very surprised that I hadn't been picked up yet. So I'm guessing that maybe they give you like standardized tests in the United States that find out if, you know, you can make the cut, you can join the program. Because he asked me if I was homeschooled or not, and I said no. And he said, well, that's strange, you must have slipped through the cracks. But there are like soul contracts, things that maybe past lives or something you agreed to, and maybe in this life you have no idea, but these contracts are still valid. And with ETs, contracts mean a lot, and it's like something you really can't go back on a contract. It's something you can't do at all. And I think that's how I got in. I mean, I think that's because they did tell me, you know, the Nordic Agents, they told me that, you know, I volunteered for this, and this was something I volunteered for, even though I wasn't aware of it in this life. So, yeah, so it was something I volunteered for, and that's why I was picked, I suppose, for this.
Yes, and was there any indication in your early years, in your childhood, that you had some paranormal abilities or something that really made you suitable for.
I remember,
Okay.
yeah, with my father, when I was a young boy, I remember being able to speak to him telepathically. He knew how to do it. And I believe that's probably why, and that, you know, that was one of the main reasons, a big part of it. I think it's something that probably most children can do, if not all children can do, but it's something that you just forget as you get older. Because even myself, I got to a point where it was almost like I forgot I could do it to begin with. And that was something that Robert told me, I remember as well. It was strange when I was leaving. He did something, he called it looking down my timeline, and he could like kind of see my future and things like that. And he could realize my thoughts in the future and my memories in the future, if that makes sense. You know, and I began to start realizing again, like, oh yeah, like I could do this, and it was just something I forgot. Maybe I just outgrew it. I'm not really sure why, but I think that was probably one of the biggest things. And that was, as far as I remember, my only real paranormal thing I could do, maybe, or something like that. There was like something with Aquino where he was able to go back into my timeline, and Robert didn't know how you could do that. He went somehow backwards in my time while I was there with him in the room in the underground caverns, and he was able to kind of alter my future by going into the past and be kind of like he could almost like interact. I wouldn't call it, maybe I wouldn't really call possess, but influence people who were in my life in the past and things like that. And they also did it as well, but more like to help me to get into the Nordics. But it was like a way to kind of, I don't know, undo what Aquino was trying to do to me.
Yes, so that it would not have much effect, negative effect, traumatic effect in the future.
Yeah, like somehow he could do that, and Robert had no idea he could do it. And I remember the one guy I talked about, the guy in the bar I called the Goon, who was one of the Satanists that was in the cavern. He was telling me, like in the bar when I had absolutely no memory of this, at the bar that was on base, you know, about, you know, yeah, Kino did this to you and he did that, telling me these things. And it was eerie, and he was bringing up people that I knew in my childhood, like calling them by names. And like, I didn't know how did he, like, he knew that. Like, I was like, you know, he mentioned names. And I said, how did you know him? How did you know about this? Like, oh, Kino, he knew it, and I was there when he was doing this to you. Strange, and I can't explain it myself.
Strange.
And I was told that too by Robert. He said that he could see my timeline was changing as he was looking down my timeline, and he said it was them talking about the Nordics. And he said, I said, well, what do you? He said they're manipulating the timeline, and I said, what do you mean? He said, higher density beings can manipulate lower densities, and he said that they were doing that, like pretty much as he was doing. You know, it's the whole time thing. It's bizarre and confusing, but yeah, somehow they were. He even told me that. He said that higher density beings have the capabilities of manipulating.
Yes.
Yeah, that's correct too. Yeah, and in the whole good and evil thing, it doesn't really. They don't really think of it thing like that. Exactly as you said, they think of it more like positive and negative. One can't really exist without the other. It's kind of like that, and it's, you know, even the most positive of beings aren't without negative traits, and even the most negative beings aren't without positive traits.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So there is the question. So do you still have the ability to telepathy now? I would say yes, because otherwise, how could you pick up our thoughts that we wanted, this interview that we wanted?
Well, and that was it. I go to. I've done it before. I don't do it very often. It's hard to find people that could do it. And then if you haven't done it in a long time, it's hard to distinguish what is the voice in your head, or is this person actually trying to communicate with you? That's something as well. And sometimes I'll go to functions like in public libraries, where they'll have like UFO events and things like that. And there's usually somebody that tries to do it. and I can pick it up when somebody does that.
Right, right. Then we would say that you still have this ability.
Yes, yes.
And
as you were saying with the interview for the Russian people and everything like that, I think that's also something they're manipulating, higher density beings. I believe this was meant to be.
Yeah. So, and that's probably a really good sign for us. So, they also ask how to unpack your ability to telepathy.
Yeah, that was something else Robert told me when he was looking down my timeline, something that I remembered in the future, and it was it was my sister's friend. There was this girl I knew. It was her sister's friend, and her mother. She was a telepath. Her name was Jen, and she was a telepath. And she knew my dad was as well. And she would always come over to the house, and she knew I was. And it was my sister's birthday on Halloween. My sister's birthday is on Halloween, and she invited me over for like a Halloween party. And right away, this girl Jen, she was, I don't know, 14, and I was thinking, well, I was 10 at the time. She grabbed my hand and she took me into her mother's bedroom, and she said, and her mom was like putting on like a Halloween costume to go out for the night. And she said, "Mom, this is him." And the mother said, "You say his father can do it?" And she said, "Yes." And you said, "And his mother?" And she said, "Not as much." And he said, she said, "What about his sister?" And she said, "No." And she like grabbed my chin and like lifted my head up, and it was almost like, I don't even know what it was, my aura, I'm not sure what it was, but it was just like we locked eyes, and she just kind of like opened up something in me, and I really can't explain it. But I remember like the girls were screaming, like in the living room, and I remember the mom kind of had to like shake my chin to kind of snap me out of it. And when we came out back into the living room, the girls were like saying, you know, "Did you see that? It looked like the house was on fire." Because it was like orange. It was like orange with like flakes of red and blue and stuff like that. And I couldn't explain what it was. But Robert told me what she did was she put me partially in fifth density. And that's like kind of like what happened. And I think that's what, you know, Tibetans, I think they did that on purpose. It was almost like a way to get me ready for this. And it was like they put me partially, and that's why he wanted me to go back into the chair. It's like a density chair that puts you from third to fifth density. He said you have to go back in the chair because that's not actually what wipes your mind. That just puts you up in a higher density. He thought there was a malfunction or something with the chair, and that somehow it didn't push me back down in the third density properly. And I was still partially in fifth density. He kept on saying that. But then when you look down my timeline and you realize that I recalled these memories, he said, "No, it was that." And he said, "There's nothing I can do." But, you know, he said, "You still need it." He's like, "I could try." He's like, but he didn't think the chair would do it because it was this woman that did it instead, along with the help with the higher density beings. And, you know, he said that you still should go back in the chair so I can rewipe your mind because, you know, your life is going to be difficult. But yeah, I mean, I think that was a big part of it as well. That's it. As far as I know, you know, to this day, I'm partially in fifth density. I'm not like in fifth. That's how he worded it. You're partially in fifth density.
Yeah, and just a bit more about soul contracts.
Our viewers had a lot of questions to Daryl about soul and AI.
What actually technologies these negative entities used around the earth to keep souls in prison, recycle, to do nasty things, and
even when we were on the ship and we attacked the reptile ship, I remember we had like cubes on a belt. They're like small cubes.
What cubes? What size and what are they made of?
Small cubes. I don't know. And then you would, after the soul, the souls would be put in the cubes during the battle, because most beings, and there's something about Earth, I'm not sure what it is, it erases the memory of our souls. Naturally, the soul keeps its memory, even in the next life. And so you really don't want them getting away, you know, so you want to imprison those souls if, you know, they're, you know, negative reptiles. You don't want them getting back into the, you know, circulation of the universe. And yeah, it's just like a cube, and it's just like a box or something. It just traps the soul. And then after that, that's like a temporary holding, that box is only temporary. Then they put it into something that looks almost like an urn. It looks like you put ashes in. Like it looks almost like an urn. It's kind of like that. And that's something that's more permanent. And the soul can be trapped there till pretty much kingdom come. Yeah, that was one of the reasons why they wanted to board the ship instead of just blowing it apart. Because yeah, there was beings they knew that their souls were trapped. Maybe they were put in, you know, they have like cyborgs they put souls in. Maybe they were in a suit of armor. Maybe they were in a weapon. You know, they use the souls for any kind of artificial intelligence, and they're trapped in there. And
soul is very valuable for them. Soul, like essence, this energy of soul is very valuable for them.
It's like currency, yeah. It's traded and things like that. Like there's like a black market almost in the universe where souls can be traded. It's like silver, pretty much. It's not the most valuable thing, but it's pretty valuable. It's the most commonly traded thing.
So, but with the soul of Elder, obviously Mother wanted to have his soul to have another lifetime, another incarnation, and she asked you to help to procreate a physical body for this soul.
Yes, she gave birth to him as a son, and that's like common. It's the whole thing with you know, the saying somebody who was your brother in the past life could be your son in this life or something like that. Souls kind of like, they have almost like a grouping, and they stay together. There's almost like families of souls where they kind of stay together throughout time and stuff like that. And you know, your family members were probably different members of your family in past lives, or maybe a good friend of yours could have been maybe a child of yours in a past life, things like that.
Yes, and that's what they call soul. Yes, I forgot this. Soulmate.
Soulmate, yes. Yeah, of course. I mean, there's people, you meet someone and, you know, that person might become just a friend, but then you meet someone and it's exactly, it feels like you've known them your whole life, and you become, you know, more than just friends, you become very close. And yeah, I believe that could be it, of course. Yeah.
You know, somebody wrote the following, that some viewer says that they constantly haunted by a recurring dream, very vivid, very realistic, participating in a rescue operations. And so you think that it may be like a sign that this person probably had some experiences?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm going to keep on going back to him because he's kind of like my anchor to this story. I've told others that if Robert hadn't told me the things that he did, I probably would have thought this was just something I made up in my head or in my imagination, or maybe it's just dreams or things like that. But he just told me all these things. And if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have come forward or anything else.
Yes. But, so he just validated your these dreams and your thoughts, your questions.
Exactly. He thought I knew more than I did. He thought I remembered more than I did, because they were actually monitoring me in my room with that 5G technology, you know, because like they had me on suicide watch and everything else, because they could tell I wasn't myself. And I believe that I was having just really horrible dreams. I couldn't sleep, and it was just things like that. And I believe he thought it was something worse, and I believe he thought I remembered more than I actually did. And if it wasn't for him, I probably would have thought maybe this is just a weird, dream, or I'm just making this up or anything like that. But yeah, he validated everything. And he told me that one of the things he told me was, you know, on this world, they're clearing out the underground bases and things like that. And yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing. And he kept on telling me they're scared, things like that. And which for me kind of gives almost kind of, I don't know, a good feeling, you know, I guess. I know that, like, you know, reptiles can be scared and grays can be scared. You kind of just think of them as these big beasts or whatever, but you know, they get frightened as well. And he was telling me you're going to be seeing a lot of strange meteorite activity, but it's going to be more like you're going to see several trails with sparks behind it, gold and silver sparks and things like that. And you've been seeing that a lot, and they've been saying that it's space stations passing through the atmosphere, coming back through into Earth. But a lot of that's happening right now on the internet, and that's what he told me it was. It was, you know, Solar Warden especially shooting down their ships because nothing's allowed to leave and nothing's allowed to come in without permission. And they're just, and he says they know they're going to get shot down, but they're desperate and they're just doing everything they can to try to get away because they're scared. They know they're losing and they're scared. So yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be, somebody maybe was in the program and had these thoughts that, yeah, going into underground caverns or being on ships and things like that and shooting down other ships, that would be a very common memory.
And they also say, thank you for your wonderful message. This knowledge is so important to me, as if something important and forgotten that I now remember. So that something forgotten and suddenly they remember it as they were listening to your stories. That's the message. Wow. Obviously, there were a lot of questions about Taygeta, about the planet itself. Many people wrote that, what is Taygeta? Where is it? Have you ever mentioned the name of the planet?
I don't remember him saying the name of the planet because he said that it was the name of their star. I guess when beings, once they have the capability of space travel, they name themselves after their star instead of their planet. That way they can just point at the star chart and say, that's where I'm from. So it's like, it's almost like a step up in evolution. Instead of naming yourself after your world, you name yourself after your star.
Yes, probably. But are you willing to speculate a bit?
Speculate?
Yes.
What it's called? Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes. Look, I have, can you see? I have this. This is obviously the Taygeta system, but Tema or Tma, it's the third planet. And what they say about it, that it's actually administrative center of this solar system, of this star system. And it really coincides, it's very consistent with what you are saying, that the royal family lives on this planet. And people who live there, they call themselves Taali. They look like this.
Oh, the high cheekbones. I would say, in my opinion, the eyes would be a little bit larger. But the high cheekbones, definitely.
Yes. And here is another.
Yeah, especially the woman. She has the eyes, the larger eyes. Yeah, and the man as well. That picture has larger eyes.
Yes.
That's the most. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, especially the one on the left. It's very accurate. Yeah, the eyes. And that's the only thing I could really point out to you that's different is that you would, if you saw them on the street, what you would think would be different is the eyes are just a little bit too big, maybe a bit too large.
Yeah, but then yes, thank you. It's good to know that we really have some reference point here. We'll stay a bit more on Taygeta system, and They also ask about, let me find, what is the most valuable and important thing in the life of the Tibetans? What takes most of their time and attention?
I would say their children. They would see as the very most important thing, more than anything else. I mean, trying to get as many different species, races together, different people from different worlds together to, you know, combat the AI is pretty much what it is. It's the AI. The reptiles are ruled by the AI, same as the gray, which is it's in a different universe, so that's why it's so hard to combat. The actual, I don't know, core of it, of the AI is in a separate universe. And our universe doesn't have that capability, which is strange, of being able to go into different universes. So none of the ETs from our universe know how to do that, but this AI knows how to go into different universes and spread. And it's just like I don't know, it's just a parasite that is spreading from universe to universe, and they're trying to stop it. So they're trying to get as many worlds together as they can.
So like virus.
Exactly, yeah. So they're trying to get as many worlds together as they can to try to combat it. That's pretty much what the mission is.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, and I think this question also, well, somehow connected. Tibetans are also obviously vulnerable to lower frequency races like reptilians and greys. They have them in their reality. They have to deal with them. So, but is there any race or races that the reptiles fear and just avoid, shun?
Oh gosh, I forget which one they are. I get the Andromedans and the Arcturians.
Arcturians?
Dark blue with like, they have black eyes and it looks like swirling blue galaxies for their pupils. They have very, it's like sapphire dark skin with a big head. And I believe they're ninth density and beings, and they don't like them at all. And but they're almost, the Arcturians are almost beyond kind of violence or whatever like that. They don't need that, and they can just appear, you know what I mean, just out of nowhere. And they have this ability where there can be two factions, you know, at a table discussing some sort of treaty. You can have the reptiles and Tibetans, and they can be almost at each other's throats, like ready to get into a fight with disagreements. And one of them can walk into a room and everybody just stops and will look at them. It just calms the whole room down. It's strange. They have this ability. They're kind of like the negotiators of the universe. They always show up at negotiations and things like that. They're always.
Also, we have to raise our vibrations, just shift ourselves rather than fight with them all the time. Shift ourselves into different place, into different vibrational place where they are not, they do not exist. They are not compatible with this place.
Yes. And that's something else. It's like, you know, I'm not saying because it's right now, but I remember talking to Robert and we were discussing a Kino, and he's like a reptile. He's actually a reptile. And he said, we were talking about him, and he said we should stop talking about him. And I said, why? And he said, you know, he might hear us. He kind of said it like that. He's like, he might hear us. And I said, what do you mean? He said he's fourth density, and which is kind of like spirit realm. He kind of described me, or astral plane, or something like that. He said he has the ability, you know, if you think about him too much or think about it too much, he could be present in the room and you wouldn't even know it. He said, I have a better chance of knowing it than you because I'm fifth density. He was still fifth density. He said, but you wouldn't even know he was there. So yeah, it's just like you have to raise your vibration, because you could have, you know, these things, and there's more than just reptiles in the fourth density. There's other ones. There's positive and negative. But you know, raising your vibration and just, I don't know, being in the moment and just going on with the next thought, and just we were able to just drop it like that. It was strange. It was almost like I was kind of feeding off his vibration, his density. I kind of felt like I was there again. I kind of felt like, yeah, this is like where I was for a long time. It was familiar, the feeling I had in his presence. And we were able to just stop right away. Because I remember, like, we were talking about the Master Chief as well. And he said he's a German. And he was in the room right over, an off-world German. And I said, you know, well, first I said, does the CO, the commanding officer, is he a telepath? He said, no. And then I said, well, is the Master Chief? And he said, yes. And then he said, we should stop talking about him because he might hear us. And it was almost like if you focus on someone, you know what I mean? I guess if they're close enough by and they're a telepath, they'll be able to pick up on what you're saying. But it was weird. It was like we were able to I was able to just change my thought pattern as soon as he said that. He was like, we should stop talking about him. He might hear us. It was almost like I knew it was like home again. I don't know. It was strange. It was something I knew I could do, but I forgot all about. And he was just saying things like, you know, he was saying about the smart glass pad. I remember that. And he said the first technology you're going to see is the smartphone. He said it's based off the smart glass pad. I said, what's the smart glass pad? He said, the smart glass pad, you remember. And he would just say, you remember. And it was this waves of like memory would just come over me. And I thought, oh my, and it was almost like, how could I even forget that? How did I forget that? It was bizarre. It was very strange. Yeah.
Yeah. So then it all makes sense that our power comes from inside rather than from outside.
Yeah, and they're afraid of us too, you know. I mean, the negative ETs, you know, especially us, people from Earth, there's something in us that like locked away that they want to keep down. They want to keep suppressed, and that's why they're artificially keeping us down in third density when we should be more like a fifth density being, but they're artificially keeping us down. So because they're afraid of us, there's a potential in us that they don't want to be unlocked, and they're fearful of it.
But are there any improvements in this situation that probably these devices and their control, mind control, probably it's much less now?
Oh, I would say so, of course. I mean, I think, you know, going through that whole, I'm not sure if it was that bad in Russia, but the whole getting locked down and everything else, that was, you know, that was their last stand kind of thing. And for the negative ETs, negative beings for Earth and things like that. And the positive beings, even on Earth, you know, positive military members and things like that, they were using it as almost like cover to do whatever they had to do to sort things out. And I mean, yeah, in my opinion, it's definitely just, I could just feel, you know, a weight lifted off. It feels like, you know what I mean, compared to the past year. You know, and the past year was miserable. And yeah, and people are starting to stand up for themselves. Parents aren't allowing their children to wear these silly masks that don't do anything, you know, and parents are starting to take their kids out of school if they keep this up. Nobody has like a mask mandate anymore, pretty much, unless it's like hospitals and things like that. And that's really it.
I think it's only if you agree to comply with something, that's your choice. But in fact, if you stand in your power, you know, nobody can tell you anything.
Exactly. It's compliance, and you know, and that way, in a sense, it makes it your fault, you know. And they have different ways.
Your responsibility. It's
exactly.
Just your responsibility.
Exactly. And they have ways of doing things like it's almost like a pressure release valve, is the way it was described to me, of Hollywood and things like that. They're kind of telling you things they're doing to you, and movies and things like that. And it's almost like a way for the negative beings, you know, the balance or karma or whatever you want to call it, it's eventually going to catch up to them. But then they use certain things like music and movies. They're telling you what they're doing to you, and through all these movies and stuff. So it's almost like a way of them saying, you know, we're letting them know what we're doing to them, but
Yes, and it's up to them decide.
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
And if they agree,
it's not our fault, you know.
Their fault. Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll
they're allowing us to do this to them. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. A bit back to you, Daryl. Very many people want to know and what was your rehabilitation process and where you are now at your current timeline.
So how did I cope with it? And
yes,
how did I remember?
How it started probably your own healing process.
Oh, how was my own healing process started? I don't know. It was just, like I said, I forgot because it was, I'll go into that. Like I said, I had a little piece of paper with all the, with names written on it and things like that. I'd read it every day. And I realized that if I kept on doing this, you know, I might do what Robert thought I was going to do. I might, you know, drive myself crazy and just kill myself. So I just had to roll up the paper and I threw it away. And I realized I can't think about this anymore. I can't. And, you know, certain events happen in my childhood and things like that, where I have this ability to where if something is too painful for me, I can really just say, nope, I can't think about this anymore. This is too much. I can't do it. And I just completely forgot. And it was just different traumas in my childhood started coming back to me. And I had memories of this. And then as I started having different, and Aquino was a part of that, as I said, he was doing, you know, these different traumas in my childhood. And as I started remembering these different traumas, I started remembering more things, and I started remembering more things. And it was almost just like, oh yeah, and then this happened and that happened. And then, oh God, yeah. And I forgot, I talked to this guy in the Navy when I was getting out, and he told me all this stuff, and I completely forgot about it. And like I said, I eventually got, you know, the Veterans Association in the United States is known not to be the best. And I eventually got to see like a therapist who was ex-Army, and you always like somebody who's actually in the military, because they know that, you know, they treat you like, you know, your property, because you pretty much are in the military. And he pretty much said, you know, you don't seem delusional, is how he put it. And then I asked him again, I was like, well, tell me what you think. And he said, well, a part of me thinks that this is a way to deal with your trauma, but then a much larger part of me believes you. And that's how he put it. And that was kind of like, when he said that kind of clicked, and that made sense to me. And that's when I just decided to come forward about all these things, was just, you know. But yeah, it started out with me just remembering old traumas from childhood. And then those old traumas just led to other things, and then other things. And it just all came back to me. Just strange, to say the least. And then, like I said, like the memories I kind of pick up, it's almost, I don't know if I really want to explain it like a dream, but because Robert told me, oh, I'm going to have these memories in real time, is how he put it. And he said, which means like, there's like two of you, you know, on the same kind of, in this reality, on the same, you know, there's two of you simultaneously in different parts of the universe. And if the guy up there has memories, you know, me down here are going to recall that memory. So it's like, I really don't know like my future, but it's like, oh yeah, you know, and it's almost like the same feeling. Like, how did I ever forget that? Once I remember it again, it's like, wow, like how did I ever forget anything like that? And it's not like the mundane things, because, you know, believe it or not, being on a ship, a lot of it was just solar warden was, a lot of it was just, we were kind of just guarding the solar system. So it was just like being on watch in the military. It was bored. A lot of it was boredom. So you don't really remember the boring things in your life. You remember, you know, the more happy things, or maybe like more terrible things. You know, you remember things that kind of stand out in your life. So it's like, I don't have memory every day. It's like boom, 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 but there's like a certain specific thing, like, oh yeah, this happened. And one of the latest ones, as far as I can remember, is I remember I was on their world, their home world, and it must have been late because it was raining. And like I said, they have They can manipulate the weather and the world and everything
climate
else.
control, yes.
Yeah, yeah. So and they usually do it like early morning, right before the sun comes up. You know, you'll have a shower or something like that. So it's probably like 5 or 6 in the morning, the equivalent of. And he knocked on my door, and I got up, and he looked like he hadn't shaved in days, and he was in the military and stuff. He looked like he hadn't got a haircut, and he was crying, and he was in the rain. You know, not days, but weeks. He looked like he hadn't kept himself up in weeks. And he said, "I'm sorry I did that to you." And you know, I invited him into my house, and this was like a memory that probably happened a few months ago, and I remember that. And he was talking about he was sorry about when Aquino made him, you know, participate in the torture.
Yeah. So, and they also ask a lot if you keep in touch, if you have contacts with other SSP veterans.
Tony Rodriguez, Penny Bradley, Randy Kramer, Johann Fritz, Rebecca Rose, James Ring. These insiders and their revelations are well known among Russian disclosure movement, and it was only natural to ask if Daryl had connections with them.
Probably it's good time to say that about the event, that upcoming event in May, that you are going to take part in conference, secret space conference.
Yes.
We also will leave the link to this event, and it has a live stream option, which we are going to appreciate, and probably we will share later this information as well with Russian audience.
Yeah, you should try to translate that as well. Yeah, yeah, I've met a lot of those people, Tony and Fritz, and I did an interview with what's the woman? What was her? What did you say? Oh, one of the names you brought up.
Rebecca Rose.
Rebecca Rose. Yeah, I did an interview with her, and yeah, I mean, I think that would be great if you James Rank, of course,
Yes. But
I think it'd be great if you translated that. I mean,
yes, we will. We will definitely. Okay, so we have some more time, and I will just carry on with the questions, some questions, if it's okay with you.
Of course.
Yes, somebody asked, do I understand correctly that USA Air Force and the USA Navy each carry out their own secret space program in parallel and in fact are rivals, competitors, or are they allies?
I remember when I was there, when I was in Solar Warden, I was kind of disappointed because my attitude was Navy did all the work and Air Force is going to get all the credit. So it was I was actually there when they merged the two together, and just Solar Warden became part of the Air Force. It became part of Space Force, the Air Force program. But I remember being kind of like let down, yeah, because there is kind of like competitiveness. There's a camaraderie, but there's always competitiveness with different branches of militaries and things like that. I'm sure Russia's the same way, you know.
Pretty much. I heard Solar Warden now, they call them Guardians.
Guardian. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
Well, that was what
anymore. It's like Guardians.
Yeah, that's what Trump, Donald Trump, when he started Space Force, that's what the personnel are called. That's what, you know, and like you would be a sailor in the Navy, you're called Guardian in Space Force now. Yes.
Yeah, it's good to know. Okay.
Some questions sent by our viewers were really abstract and enigmatic, just like Russian soul. Yet we brought them up too.
Which of the paths do we more truly need to choose? You know, like architects of the universe hope to make us world diplomats, like in the movie Valerian, French movie released in 2017, I think. And what do we lack already now from this position, I believe, like world diplomats? What do we lack already? I would say, what do we lack yet for this position?
Well, I mean, I believe the main thing we lack as far as in the present moment is we can't just sit back and, you know, watch football, soccer, and sports and things like that and just let our political leaders just walk all over us. We have to take like an active participation in our future and, you know, the children's future and everything like that. We can't just, you can't just have this hands off, like, it doesn't matter, whatever, blah, blah, blah. You can't be that way anymore. And I think people are beginning to realize that. And as you said, what people just refusing to wear the mask and just saying no, I think that's like a step. I think we're growing up. We're starting to take responsibility for ourselves. But the biggest thing, I believe, you know, is number one, like I said, that we're artificially being kept down. And there's other, you know, positive beings that are helping us, you know, get the boot off our neck, I guess you would say, and help us get up. And but then after that, we have to do it on our own. And they're going to help us and everything like that. But this is something we're going to have to do on our own. And the biggest thing is we have to take an active role and, you know, our own destiny of this world. And yeah, you just can't
sit back, yes, and wait.
Yeah, you can't watch TikTok videos all day and just think things, you know, you stop being in your own little bubble. You know, there's a lot more out there than just you.
Yes, but actually when you start this process of healing and self-empowerment, it becomes very exciting thing to do. It becomes not like a chore, not like a job, hard work, but
it's your responsibility. Yeah, exactly. You have to take, you know, accountability for yourself, and it's your own responsibility. And I'm starting to see, like, I forget what it was. Was it? I don't know where it was. I think it was Eastern Europe something. Was it Belarus or something? I'm not sure. But one of the politicians just straight up called Justin Trudeau a dictator, and you know he's holding down his people, and they did that like right in the middle of like a parliament kind of situation. And I thought that was great. You know, it's wonderful that, you know, we have to start calling people out for what they are. Yeah.
With your time, probably, well, really hard time on these 3 months on the moon in mines, you know, when you were in this like a slave. What helped you to get through it? Because some people really gave up. Did you know that it will be only 3 months, or what really helped you to survive and carry on with this?
Well, like I said, I knew a woman that was actually on the base that volunteered for the program as well, and she was kind of like a nurse. And I would mostly stay with her. You know, like I said, they have like a brothel and things like that, and that was like your motivation to work. But I mean, you could also like have a kind of relationship as well. And I think she probably was the biggest thing to help me out, because I remember even telling her, like, I don't understand why they're punishing me, because I don't even remember doing that. You know, I don't remember poking this thing in the eye. Why are they doing this to me? And she said, well, you're just gonna have to, you know, just keep up with your work and just, you know, get through this. She kind of like helped me through this, and I remember that. And I remember telling her about my problems and, you know, how it bothered me that I kept on getting punished for something I don't remember doing. And yeah, I think that was it. I mean, it just do as I'm told, and, you know, just get it over with. That's the only thing that kept me going, really. And she helped a lot.
Yeah. And like Robert himself, so he obviously kept an eye on you and visited you, and so there still was a lot of help.
Exactly, and I think like I described him as like the yo-dog guy. Like whenever we were on the base, like on Earth before this even happened, and he was just like the guy talking about how he had memories of being on the moon, and this was just something so normal, just like us talking together. And he was like, "Yeah, man, I was on the moon," and things like that. And he said, "Yeah, dog." He was like one of those type of guys that use a lot of slang and stuff, you know.
We also assumed that playing guitar was like a permission slip for Daryl during his time in Nachtwaffen and helped him stay connected to his true self.
I mean, not only did it help my vibrations, but it helped me get, you know, allies with the Dark Fleet, the members of the Dark Fleet. They liked me. They, like I said, they would buy me beer. You know, they had beer in this little bar they had right on the ship. And it was like, you know, one of those, I don't know, Haberhaus, I think is what it's called. It's like a famous bar in like Munich, Germany. Like they had these huge steins, and it was probably about 3 bottles of beer in one of these things. And they'd usually buy me like 2 every time. And they gave you some amount of money when you were there. And I only made probably about enough to buy 2 beers a week. It was and it was like you could buy sugar, coffee, tea, things like that. It was just little things that they paid you a little bit on the side. But yeah, that definitely, it just helped me out. Not only helped me exactly like vibrational and just keep my morale up, but it helped me in the sense that, I mean, they all liked me, you know, like I remember they would speak English in front of me at the bar and things like that. Even if they were talking to each other out of respect, you know, they would usually speak German to each other, but if I was playing guitar for them at their bar, they would speak English in front of me. And it was really only the commanding officer who only spoke German in front of me. And he was kind of a jerk, but I think everybody, even the Germans, the off-world Germans on the ship, saw him as like a jerk too. He, I don't know if you could translate in Russian, but you know, he kissed up to the head reptile, the master of the ship. He was like kissed up to him. But yeah, nobody liked him. Not even the other Germans really liked that guy. But exactly, it did help me a lot, and it was a way to better myself. You know, just not only emotionally, spiritually, but just in the situation I was in to help me get past it.
Yes, your self-esteem, you know, for your self-esteem, and yes, and
then we asked Daryl about different viewpoints at the same event, how attitude can color and shift the whole approach to it.
We're not this scene when you got really mad and unhappy, when you learned that they did know about you being with the Dark Fleet and they did nothing to help you. So was it like do you understand that probably it was also by design? So for you to get through this experience and learn a lot from it, to have your training, to have your spiritual growth as well. They did not see it like you were suffering. They saw it as an experience for you.
Exactly, and that's something they actually say a lot too. Is like when when I asked her about that, she said we wanted you to learn from them, the reptiles and the Dark Fleet, and she said you needed the experience, and they say that a lot. And
yes, it's just like when you devalue the experience, you think that you are victim, that you deny it. That's when it feels bad. But if you really look from different perspective, you think that it is very valuable experience, that it's probably, I'm not a victim, I'm a creator of this experience. So then you just shift your energy, you shift your mindset, you shift your attitude, and it feels different.
Yeah, and that's something they teach you too, is you know, the point of life isn't to be good or bad or happy or sad. It's the experience. You need the experience. That's like what the point of life is. We're reborn and we have this experience, and then we're reborn and we have this experience. And that's, as far as I can remember, almost like what they felt like was the meaning of life. It was, yeah, can you embrace this? Can you overcome it? And can you learn from this experience? And, you know, are you just going to be, you know, woe is me and things like that? You know, are you just going to have self-loathing or whatever? And I mean, and everybody has that experience, and that's the whole point, you know, and it doesn't make it right or wrong or anything like that. It's just, it's a necessity, and that's just how the universe works, as far as I can tell.
Yes, I think that the whole planet, the Earth, are getting through this experience. We collectively go through this experience now, and so looks like we are making it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and exactly. And at first, it was just people were, when the lockdowns happened and everything else, and everybody was mopey about it, and they were just accepting these vaccines they were giving us and things like that. And now people are starting to stand up, and they're not going to take it anymore. And people are beginning to, you're seeing, you know, professional, you know, football players, soccer players worldwide, they're dying of heart attacks and stuff out in the field. And it's just, people are starting to get wise. People are starting to understand that this is intentional, and these people are trying to destroy us. And we need to stop them, you know, and this is our experience. And, you know, it could have been something easy. They could have intervened. And this is what Robert told me as well. He's like, we could have intervened and we could have stopped this. But 100 years later, it just would have happened again. And he put it this way. He said, it has to be ingrained into the people's DNA. Like, there's a DNA memory, and this has to be ingrained in our DNA to where, you know, our future generations aren't going to let this happen. There's almost like, you know, like a DNA memory, where it's like the whole monarch thing. I don't know if you heard that, the monarch programs and things like that. It's like,
monarch programs. I actually, yes, I did not touch upon this because I'm not very confident with this information, you know, with this like Kruger and Monarch. I have no idea really what's this, but it caused huge discussion in the chats, you know, who is who and what's their role. And so can you briefly say something about it to make it clearer? Monarch.
Monarch. Yeah, like we have monarch butterflies in the United States, and they go, or they go from Canada and they travel all the way down into Mexico, and then that's where they breed. But it's not breed, but it's a migration from winter to summer. They go back and forth, and it's hundreds of generations of butterflies. But yet these butterflies, they have this memory where they know they have to keep going south, or they know they have to keep going north. And it was almost like they did studies on it. It's like, how do these, you know, insects have this calling, this instinct to do this? And they began to realize that there's like a type of, it's almost like a memory ingrained in your very DNA, you know, where they just know they have to do this. So they started experimenting with people and stuff. And it's not good. It can be not good because I don't know about it in depth, but I hear like wealthy people do this to their children and stuff like that. And that's how they stay in power. Very powerful billionaires and stuff. They'll do traumatic things to their children. So it's like, it's a memory that will go on for generations, to where, you know, don't let the peasants overthrow you, you know, like type of thing like that, where they'll abuse their own children, but it's kind of like a self-preservation thing to keep their lineage alive and things like that. But I mean, Robert didn't bring that up in that sense. He didn't say monarch, but it just reminded me of monarch. He said it. He only said it has to be ingrained into the people's DNA. He said, like, you know, this can never happen again. And as far as like Kruger, I really don't remember. I don't have all my memories back, and I really don't remember working with Kruger. But Robert told me.
Are they positive or negative?
as far as like I can understand, they have the capability to go from universe to universe, and they're in an alternate universe. They're not from this universe, and it's like a corporation from Germany, in an alternate universe, from an alternate Earth. And as far as I can sum up, it seems like they're trying to go to different universes and stop what is happening as far as eventually destroying Earth and different universes. And I guess maybe they're trying to, this is just my own hypothesis, this is my own opinion, maybe they're trying to get all these different universes together, because I know there's a common cause within this universe to stop the AI. So maybe that's what they're doing. Maybe they're just going from universe to universe, they're trying to get these people together to stop the AI. And as I said, I mean, there's no such thing as an absolute negative being. There's no such thing as an absolute positive being. It doesn't really, the good and evil thing, it really doesn't apply. You know, it's not like that. But you know, to achieve the final goal, it may seem harsh, it may seem cruel. Just like this may seem harsh and cruel. Why aren't they helping us? Why aren't they doing anything? Why aren't the higher ETs, the higher beings helping us? Because they can't. Because if they did, this would just happen again. This has to be hard. This has to be cruel. This has to be something that we're not going to let ever happen again. And I mean, I'm not really that familiar with Kruger. I really don't know that much about it. But I just remember Robert telling me, you work with Kruger, and Kruger is helping us. Kruger is helping us, you know, change things around in this world. And, you know, they have abilities, they have capability, like technology that we don't have. And they're loaning it, they're giving it to us to help us.
What Daryl said about Kruger led us to the question about fight with destructive civilizations. How long has it been going on? And what is the level of spirituality of the Milky Way galaxy?
Well, like, are we more on the negative side? Is the universe more negative, or is the universe more positive? Is that what you're saying?
So are we, I believe, are we winning or they are winning?
Well, as far as this world right here, we're winning right now. As far as the universe, I believe the negative side is still in control, but they're losing. And that's throughout the universe, and they're scared. And that's one of the reasons why, like I said before, why the ETs, why the positive ETs want us on their side, because they want our help. They see, like, all 50 density beings, as far as I can remember, have that ability to look down timelines. And it's almost like 100 years out, you may have like 10 different outcomes that you can kind of see. And then as it gets closer, as this final outcome gets closer, it narrows down. You know, 50 years, you got like, you know, maybe 7 outcomes you can see. And then you got 20 years, and then, okay, you got like 4 different outcomes you can see. And then once you get to like 10 years, it's like 2 or 3, 5, you can pretty much tell what's going to happen within 5 years. So, and that's how they do the kind of the looking glass technology is more accurate than what a being can do as far as looking down the timelines and things like that. And like I said, it's kind of like their warfare is kind of like time travel. It's a time travel kind of cat and mouse, and they're kind of doing different things, and they're manipulating timelines here and there, and they're going back and forth in time and things like that. And that's how it works. And I would say, you know, especially our world where we are, and like I said, that's where we have to focus right now is our world. Most definitely, you know, they're on the run. They're gone. And he even said to me the whole, you know, this is just a show, you know, the Q thing. It's like how he put it was they're forcing them to show what they were going to do to us over the next 30 years, so we would accept it, because that's how they slowly creep things in, and you accept it, you accept it, you accept it. But they're forcing them to do it in like 2 or 3 years. So everybody's like, what's happened? Like, this is crazy. Like, how can you do this? You know. So it's like they're the positive people in the military and things like that. They're forcing like the negative ones. They have them captured. They have them like on the run. They're just, you know, if you want life in prison instead of a death sentence, then you're going to have to do this. You're going to have to, you know, like do this little opera that we're all watching right now.
It's what they did to us, so they are doing now to them.
Exactly. Yes.
How long has this fight been going on?
I mean, since the incarnation of this universe, of this consciousness that we're in right now. I mean, not this universe itself, but as far as our souls, you know, our consciousness being in the universe, it's been going on since that long. You know, like I said, it's a positive and a negative. It's a dark and a light. It's a yin and a yang. It's
like cycles. It's just like universal or galactic cycles.
Yeah, and like this has happened before, and it's going to happen again. Yeah, like we weren't, you know, our consciousness, our as far as I remember, our like soul's consciousness wasn't here the last time around, but there was like there were beings here similar to us a time before us, and they had to do the same thing, and it's going to happen again and again and again and again. You know, it's like kind of waking up from a dream, and then you thought the dream was real, but no, this is the reality, you know. Our galaxy is, well, like I said, throughout the universe, it's becoming more positive. Right now, it's still more negative, but it's becoming more positive. And I remember they did have a religion, a spiritualness, and a sense of, they did have, it was, you know, like a monotheistic kind of belief, and, you know, creator, prime creator, things like that. They did see kind of like we do, you know, in our religions, is like a one God kind of thing. And I think some ETs do have almost like a kind of pagan, like a Hindu Indian kind of belief, but then they also know that there is one creator, as far as, you know what I mean? There is that belief. And maybe I'm getting more into religion, but as far as spirituality, as I said before, the universe, I believe, is more negative right now, but the more negative beings, they're losing, and they're losing fast. And they're not just scared just on our world. This is happening all throughout the universe, and there's like a change.
This process getting more and more momentum.
Yeah, and so yeah, and we had to put up with, you know, the crud and the bad parts and things like that, and for thousands of years, you know, we've just been manipulated into like the negative beings. But now, you know, it's going to change, and now 1,000 years of peace, all that stuff like that, you know, it's happening, you know, and beyond, you know, 1,000 years.
Good. That's really, really good. Well, we'll say
we were about to wrap up our interview and say that we enjoyed this conversation immensely. Being for the very first time in these shoes makes you very nervous. And we never asked the most important question, if Daryl knows how the events in Russia are going to unfold. Thank you, Daryl, for stepping in. Your message was meant to be shared.
We have enjoyed the conversation with you immensely.
Yeah, and what I was saying earlier at the very beginning, I kind of wanted to point out, it's positive. I mean, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's things that have to do with Russia that I was told about from Robert when he was telling me about the different future, how the future was going to be and things like that. It's not all of it, but he was telling me things. And it was, he told me that Ukraine is going to Russia. You know, the geography is going to be split and changed and things like that. He told me Belarus and the Baltics are going to Russia.
They're going to be back the part of Russia, yes.
Russia. Because I remember I told them, and I said, when I was in the military, I was deployed to the Baltics. I was in Lithuania, Klaipėda. And I knew a woman there, and, you know, they have something called Black Flag Day. And I knew a woman there, and she said her mother was born in Siberia. She said that the Soviets were bringing people out by the train loads, and throwing him out in the middle of Siberia. And there, I guess it was like an ethnic cleansing with native Russians and things like that. So I wasn't happy about it. It kind of upset me. And he said, no, it's not going to happen this time. He's like, it's going to be better. He's like, they're going to leave him alone and that won't happen this time. And then he also told me that, he told me Alaska is going to go back to Russia.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know if it was called Seward's Folly, we call it in American history, where a politician bought Russia for like $7 million, which was bought Alaska from Russia, which was $7 million. It was like 2 cents an acre, and it was considered like a stupid thing to do. But it turned out, there's all this oil, so he was proven right. But he said, yeah, Alaska's going to go back to Russia, and I said, well, what's going to happen to the people there? The Alaskan people that live there. And he said nothing. And I said, they won't have their land or their property taken away? He said, no. And I said, what if they don't like it? He's like, well, they can come back to America. And I said, so what's going to happen to the people that live there? They're just going to have to become bilingual? And he said, yes. And it was just that. But he was very happy. He was smiling, and it was good news.
Oh.
And he was proud of himself. He was very proud of that. This was something that, the U.S. military, Russia, like I said, it's not really, I don't know if Putin might have more to do than I thought, but he acted like Trump wasn't really a big deal. He was just a figurehead. And it was more of the U.S. military was doing this along with other branches, Russia and India, China. They're kind of all working together, the higher ups in the military. And yeah, he was just saying that, Russia's going to be the next world power, but it's not going to be like the Cold War. There isn't going to be a lot of strife. They're going to get rid of NATO, United Nations. So Russia and the West are going to be very strong allies for a long, and that's how he put it, 1,000 years of peace and beyond.
Yeah.
But, yeah, there'll still be nations and stuff, but the thing he was emphasizing, there's not going to be this whole, Russia versus the West versus Russia. It's going to be more like one kind of, not really one nation, but we're going to work together from now on. And all this is nonsense. And yeah, I mean, I think that's good news, and he felt it was good news too. The way he talked about it, he felt as though it was good news.
So, and it was in 2005. That was the last time you just interacted. You talked to him.
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, and yeah, he was just telling me all these things and world events that would start happening and start unfolding, and yeah, I mean, and that was it. Yeah, and I don't know if this is true, but I read something about it, and they actually found, the Russians were saying that they found chemical weapons in Ukraine that were specifically designed to infect Slavic Russian people, like the DNA of, so it would only like hurt the Russian people. So I mean, I can understand if that is true, and that happens to be true, that I mean, what else could you do? What else could Russia do except for invade Ukraine?
Exactly. Well, I'll just read what one of our viewers sent to you, Daryl. Many thanks to Daryl for the opportunity to discover little covered and completely unknown sides of our reality for so many today. I hope that in the near future, each such revelation will help millions and millions to open their eyes in order to become conscious and responsible citizens of the galactic family. I wanted to come up with a question, but I realized that literally everything that Daryl could tell us was interesting. Special thanks to him for decent, respectable human behavior.
Thank you. And I read a lot of the comments, and I mean, I read pretty much all the comments. I translated them, and I'm very appreciative, and it was very nice, and I'm very grateful for all the comments.
Yeah. And we do appreciate this time today and your attention to our work, and we will follow up. We will keep an eye, and we will carry on our work with update Russian audience with what's happening in your life.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye. you.